This is London.
Hello and welcome back to part 3 of Vulcans, Victors and Cuba, which features a really interesting interview with former V-Force captain Robbie Robson, who I think flew all of the 3 V-Force aircraft, the Valiant, the Vulcan and the Victor. So he's very interesting indeed. Hope you like it, and remember to like and subscribe.
He came over the new assembly, that's the name of our workshops here at Woodford, and he rolled it like a fighter. We couldn't believe it, that such a massive aircraft could be rolled. And he smashed all the glass in the roof of the new assembly, and it was like that for a long time, all taped up, till the roof was redone. I've never forgot that, and even the crowd that was here, and all the workforce thought it was terrific.
Each aircraft is built up from over 100,000 separate parts. Shown here is a universal rib assembly jig. Each rib, exactly made, has its place in the wing assembly jig. In this 5,000-ton rubber press, large parts can be produced in one operation, thereby lowering costs. And so the Vulcan goes into production with special virtues as a bomber.
The first production Mark I's were delivered in July 1956. This was to be the world's first delta-wing jet bomber. New Vulcan recruits were faced with an amazingly futuristic-looking aeroplane, quite unlike any other aircraft type that they would have been used to. With its vast wing area and standing at least 6 feet off the ground, it must have been quite a sight. Moving rearwards from the nose, past the bomb aimer's blister, was the entrance door. Behind that, the stalk of the twin nose wheel assembly. Travelling further under the 3,550 square foot of wing, the next eye-catcher was the main undercarriage legs, with each having 8 wheels carried on a substantial magnesium alloy casting. The weapons bay between them was 29 feet long, ample for the new atomic weapons. The crew entered the pressure cabin via the underside door. Behind and above this hatch, the 2 navigators and air electronics officer sat side by side in bucket seats facing rearwards, towards their equipment consoles. The 2 pilots climbed another ladder to the flight deck, where they have to squeeze past the central throttle console into their ejection seats. This lack of room may have dated back to early designs that envisaged the need for only 1 pilot. Early tests revealed that the workload would in fact have been too much for 1 man to handle, so a co-pilot seat would have to be accommodated. To help the pilots maneuver into their tight positions, underground train-style handles were fitted. These had the added benefit of discouraging crewmen from grabbing any ejection seat triggers. Once they were seated, the pilots were greeted with a well-laid-out cockpit with dual controls and pistol-grip columns that were more normally associated with fighter aircraft. Most new Vulcan pilots' only real criticism of the cockpit was that the canopy was completely opaque, allowing no vision overhead or to the rear. A small circular window on either side of the cockpit blister allowed the pilots to see the wingtips, so long as they leant forward as far as possible. Vulcan crews soon became used to these quirks. One other design fault, though, was more serious. Whilst pilots sat on ejection seats, there was no such provision for the rear crew. In any emergency, they would have to clamber through a hatch in the floor. Few escaped from the accidents during the Vulcan's development. For an aircraft of the 1950s, the Vulcan was remarkably maneuverable, and was capable of a very impressive rate of climb and descent. It could lose 20,000 feet in 90 seconds flat and recover to level flight in only 1,500 feet. These would be extremely valuable assets, particularly in hostile airspace infested with MiG fighters and SAM missiles. By 1958, 3 Vulcan B-1 squadrons, armed with Blue Danube A-bombs, began to spearhead Britain's nuclear deterrent. This was also the year when Bomber Command began to receive the third of its trio of V-bombers. The Handley Page Victor.
As the Handley Page Victor takes the air, we see a new shape rise in the sky. At all speeds near the ground, the crescent-winged aircraft controls easily enough to please the most exacting pilot. Notice the dive brakes, which on the Victor control the glide path without any change of trim. And now the Victor comes into land, and one of its most important features comes into play. With hands off the controls, the pilot brings it in on the approach. It flattens out and lands without the pilot touching the controls. An amazing and almost unbelievable characteristic of this crescent-winged aircraft.
The wing joined the fuselage well forward, allowing the weapons bay to be completely unobstructed. This took up most of the fuselage and was almost twice the size of the Vulcans. As an alternative to the projected 10,000-pound nuclear weapon, it could carry 35 1,000-pound bombs, as opposed to the Vulcan's 21. The Handley Page design team had also used some revolutionary construction methods. Most of the structure utilized the new technique of bonding 2 sheets on either side of a metal honeycomb core. This metal sandwich was extremely strong and light, and also gave very smooth external surfaces, reducing drag. The Victor became the largest aircraft in the world to break the sound barrier. Like the Avro Vulcan, the Victor was found to be capable of performance and aerobatics that belied its size. At Farnborough, it performed slow rolls and loops.